Hello, everyone. My name is Jack Hintz, and this is my reflection one for Black is the Body on beginnings and scar tissue. So, the beginning of beginnings, the first chapter, details the stabbing and how the author, what she was doing while she was in the hospital, what she was feeling, who she was talking to. A very common theme that you notice almost right away is how the stabbing, she said it, quote, freed her or released the inner storyteller within her. You can tell the author values honesty. At the very beginning, I think the third or fourth paragraph, she has a conversation with one of the doctors, and she describes the way that the doctor said that this medicine is more of an art than it is a science. And you could tell that she wasn't exactly relieved, but she was happy to hear that someone would be honest with her throughout this process, because right now she was just the victim of a horrible crime, and she didn't want to hear it's all going to be okay, it's going to be okay. That's a very common theme throughout this book. She wants to know the truth, whether it be honest truth, the hard truth. She wants to know, what's going on. Stabbing caused her to choose art over science, story over solution, and she said it gave her a voice. The author tends to tell stories in a way that, like I was saying earlier, it tends to tell it in a way that's like, I don't want to say it brings out the best in her, but she's very focused on how it changed her as a person and how the stabbing and what she's doing after the stabbing, like what life is like after this horrible incident. You see a lot of themes emerging of there's a lot of themes of recurrence. She keeps everything she writes about, it somehow ties back to stabbing. All of the paragraphs in the first chapter somehow tie back to the stabbing. As a reader, I'm making sense of things as she's telling the audience her story about the stabbing, and she is just kind of just letting it all pour out, and she's like, venting is the wrong word, but she is just kind of letting it all out and letting the reader know right away, like, hey, this is really what happened, and I'm not going to dumb it down for y'all. This is what happened in this stabbing for me. The author states that each story was made in an attempt to capture experiences as a black woman and a teacher in America. I really think this is a cool theme because it's something that wasn't exactly talked about much at the time of the stabbing in the 80s, but now, as we go along in modern day, as we read this story now, we can see that there could have been some certain influences or some certain other things that caused this stabbing or something like that. Again, we're not really sure because the man who did the stabbing said he, quote, wasn't in the right state of mind at the time, so we'll never really know what was going through his mind, but the author states that it was I don't really know the word, but it was a symbol, basically. It was basically like, this is what it's like to be a black woman in America, you know what I mean? Things are going to be unfair no matter what, and this is just a heightened extent of that. Okay, so for chapter 2, titled Scar Tissue, the author, it starts out kind of interesting. The author, whenever they were describing the crime scene to her, she laughs when it's called a bloodbath because even though she knew she described it in gruesome detail. There was blood all over the walls. There was blood everywhere. She laughed because when she tells this story to her kids and to her boyfriend John, or her husband John, excuse me, when she tells this story, she tells not a dumbed down version of it, but she kind of tells I'd say a less gruesome version of it. She really kind of just lightens it a little bit, just so that she's like, no, it doesn't hurt. No, the scar tissue's not that bad. No, it's fine. I'm okay now. But she really dumbs it down for the audience and for people who she's telling the story to. She is frustrated with her work, debated leaving several times in the coffee shop. She remembered the second she walked into the coffee shop, she saw the man's face. She said described him like Gallagher, a comedian from the 1970s. I believe she told the story in this way so that we could get some sort of symbol, or sorry, some sort of symbol. We could get some sort of picture of the man who did this. We could get some sort of imagery in our head. We can really kind of relate to her on that kind of basis. How does there's again a certain theme emerging from this one of contrast. This chapter, there's a very defined theme of contrast. As she is walking into the coffee shop, all is quiet. There's people talking. It's all just it's like you're walking into a coffee shop in New York. And then she said, in the blink of an eye, it was pandemic. It was topsy turvy. It was a nightmare that it turned from a dream to a nightmare very quickly. She described in very specific detail being paralyzed with fear. She felt like she couldn't move. She felt like she was, quote, fixed to the spot. She tells this story in this way, I think, so that we can, because I think at some point we've all had a experience where we've all been fixed in the spot and paralyzed with fear. And I think this is, again, connecting with the audience. She's very descriptive about the stab wound, and she's very descriptive about feeling the blood, again, so that the audience can, I don't want to say relate, but so we can get some sort of image in our head of what she was feeling and what she was seeing. So, this connects to the concepts of theories we discussed in class, because this all that we're reading right now is very rhetorical. This is all, there's a lot of rhetoric I can see when this is, like whenever I read this, I think of rhetoric about, sorry, I think about the rhetoric we've learned in this class a lot. It's very rhetorical. It's very not essayistic. I don't want to, hope that doesn't sound rude. It's very essayistic. It's almost like a story and an essay combined. Like you get all the facts out front, but you can also follow it. You can follow along very well. This connects to larger and social cultural issues or forces because I mean, this was 1994, but there are still crimes, hate crimes and race crimes every single day. We will never know the motive behind this man. We don't know if it was a race crime or a hate crime or what. But this stabbing is definitely, there have definitely been other stabbings with similar motives, and this is just one occurrence of that, and that definitely can tie back to current issues right now, because she said earlier in the first chapter she related to being a black teacher in America, and she was like, this is, I don't think she said this is what I get, but she said something along those lines. She was like, this is it, you know, this is just how it is. She describes witnessing a student run to hug another student, and that lights off all the alarms in her body. It gives her PTSD. I think this is a very effective story. I think it made me re-examine my own life and experiences, because when I look around, I look around on campus and I just see very minuscule things like people running and jumping and stuff like that, and I never realized it could trigger someone's PTSD, stuff like that. She describes her daughter's concerns whenever they go to the hospital, whenever she is just getting work done on her stab wound again like that. She'll describe the faces her daughter's made, how one of the daughters who is very, I think it's the way she described it, was very, quote, that's just how life is. She described her as like very like sedated, and she would just come and sit next to her, you know what I mean? She really took this issue firsthand, and the other daughter just wouldn't even like come hug her because she said her face was like so horrific. She was very detailed about what the things her own children were saying to her. Okay, I already went over that. And then at the very end of the chapter, she describes an email over Daniel Silva and the note that he was on trial, and that he, again, stated that he wasn't in the correct state of mind, and he apologized to the victims. He apologized for the arson. Daniel Silva burned his own house down before the stabbing. He apologized for that. And it's never really written because the chapter ends with her talking about the email, but you can tell just based off of the way that she writes and the way that she ends the chapter like this, she is not happy, because it says that he's going to have a chance for parole and a chance to go to a halfway house. And I don't expect the author to be someone who exactly harbors ill will or holds grudges. Based on the way she writes, I don't think she's that kind of person. But like, I think she's just a little bit upset that this man is probably never going to see the inside of a jail cell, just based on the fact that he wasn't in the correct state of mind when he did this horrible crime.